Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, Gyro here. Today we're taking a short break from publishing different builds and guides on Path of Exile for beginners, and we're going to talk about Ultimatum Trials. We're going to talk about this whole Trials by the Trial Master. How to maximize your chances of success. I don't pretend to be an expert or that I have thousands of hours on Path of Exile or Trials for that matter, but I have been leveling very intensely at least 2 different characters in 2 different specs to produce more builds and guides for you. Subscribe if you haven't already, by the way, in case you're interested. And I've done a lot of these trials by now, okay? So there is a certain pattern. There is a certain pattern that is proven to be yielding higher success results, higher chances of success to a casual player. And that is all that I'm going to be sharing with you today for what it's worth. And I welcome your feedback in the comments down below, as I always do, in case you have your own tips for everyone, for me, for other people who are watching my channel. Now, let's jump straight into it. First, I'll talk to you about kind of just rules of thumb, so to speak, yeah, cornerstone things that you need to take a note of, and then we're gonna go through one of those battles together to kind of demonstrate how that logic is in action. First of all, point number 1, you do need a relatively solid build. So yes, trials happen, at all points in the game. It's not just end game, so your build could be not yet at its prime, not yet in its best form, best shape, naturally, and the better equipped you are, the more passive skill points, the right passive skill points you have, the better gear you have, needless to say, the better you'll perform. So let's get that obvious part out of the way. There are lots of builds, including my own, that can help you with that. Now, experience, also speaking of builds, experience that you will have in melee range versus a ranged class versus a caster is gonna also feel very different. So in my opinion, Arc Witch, for example, has been performing in these trials for me much better straight away, because Arc, as I told to you in my guide video linked above, in case you're interested to see how you can build your character and haven't seen it yet, Arc is chaining to different enemies and is just very well built as a skill that chooses its own direction. It kind of jumps to where it needs to be. As long as you simply shoot like roughly around the enemies, it will kind of find an enemy and it will chain to other enemies, making your job at targeting much easier. When you're playing something in melee range that is not using, say, Cyclone just yet, you don't have yet that skill, and you're using something like Lacerate, then you will see in many cases that your positioning is critical. You need to face the enemies, quite obviously. So be aware of that and manage your expectations accordingly. So your success depends on the skills that you are using, basically the bottom line of this particular point that I want to make to you. Quality of life things, and something that increases your chances of success, because things are going to get really hectic very quickly for you, is that make sure that you remove map overlay view from your screen, because there'll be enemies everywhere, and especially in darker enclosed areas it's kind of becoming a bit too much of a visual clutter for you, and it could negatively impact your experience, especially considering that a lot of these negative effects and ailments, they're gonna show projections on the floor, on the ground for you, so you need to watch out for things. You don't want extra visual objects there. So this map right now, it's nothing really too obtrusive, too much in your face, but it gets like that, you know what I mean. Remove it before starting your fight. Remove it. Next point is, try and find the edge of the circle. The area of the trial is happening in a big circle. Try and find the border of it and be as close to that border as possible. Do not go to the center. Obviously, if there are lightning runes, if there are some debuffs, if there is a poison cloud of choking miasma there, obviously move out of it, but at the same time, the closer you are to the edge, the more of tactical positioning I found that tactical positioning options you have, rather than being literally surrounded by enemies that are spawning everywhere within the trial circle and circling in on you and coming in on you. You don't want that. You want to be at the edge. That's what you want to be tactically positioning. Just these things alone, as obvious as they are to some and less obvious to others, could make it or break it for you in terms of the fight and your chances of success. Also, do not attempt these trials at any level, on any class, ranged, melee, doesn't matter, in my opinion, unless you have at least some resemblance of teleportability. Do not try to do it without teleport, unless you're challenging yourself and unless you're just testing your tanky build and want to just prove to the world that you are unkillable. Because there'll be slowing down, freezing effects, there'll be shocking effects, there'll be other kind of stuff. You'll just simply be surrounded by enemies and you might find yourself simply being unable to move. And when you're unable to move just for a tiny bit, it could mean life or death in these kind of things, especially once you got to the final kind of 5th round of the trial. Trials go in 5 rounds. Quite obviously, I didn't think I need to start this video with stating such a fact, that the further you go, the further you progress, the harder it gets, yeah? Now, my personal gyro priority, I have no scientific evidence to prove this. I'm not seeming some way in some spreadsheets or something to just prove to you that the numbers adding up in the right way. I'm just telling you how it feels. My priority of favorite picks in terms of the random, as far as the random effects are concerned, the ones that you have highest chances of survival, I'm gonna give you that, and that I think is what is going to be, possibly out of everything that I said so far, most critical stuff for you. Alright, so right now, this particular encounter that I have here that's about to start, and we're gonna try it together, Blistering Cold and Choking Miasma. Out of these ones, I am going to take Blistering Cold. Frozen pustules will periodically appear and explode when you approach. Do not approach, try to stay away, but generally it's not that bad. Is this the best lineup currently, the most lucky lineup of the Ultimatum Trial abilities that will ensure my success are concerned? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm a big fan of Thunder Strikes. I can't remember right now off the top of my head exactly what it's called, the Thundering Runes or something, but we will see them surely in the fight and we're going to talk about it as we go in a minute. But generally, Blistering Cold, Thunder Strikes, Choking Miasma is not too bad as well, as long as you don't let it grow until Choking Miasma rank 3. We're not going to take rank 3. Rank 3 is horrible pretty much for all of these things. It's intended to be the hardest possibly rank of that challenge thing. Things like escalating damage taken, enemies in a rage, hallowed ground that spawns enemies as immortal manifestations that will continue chasing you after they die. Worst thing is a reduction of the size of the circle of the trial. So pause for a second and read exactly what further stages of the trial are offering you. That's very, very important. And make sure that you choose something that you, common sense wise, / listening to me here and getting a little bit of a tip here, choose something that you think you can control. And obviously, as with everything in life and in the game, you need to try it for yourself, and you might say to me, no Gyro, I would much rather select this because for me it works better than for you. Sure, not a problem. But from my perspective, the Lightning Strikes probably is the first thing that I would ever pick. The Blistering Cold is probably the second thing I'm ever gonna pick. Choking Miasma is probably the third thing that I'm gonna pick. And then there is also Raging Skulls or something like this. It's a fire-breathing skulls, the ones that are summoned. I am not a fan of those also at the, as I said, level 3, when they start chasing you, but I've beaten them as well. At the first level they are quite dodgeable, you can dodge, and they are not too bad. But those would be the 4 preferential things that would get you through 80 to 90% of these trials, depending obviously on how bad or good your luck is. It's all random. One last point which could be actually quite important. If you're trying to go far, if you just for your own ego or you want to see exactly how far you can go to get better rewards and stuff like this, I would prefer if you try to experiment in open areas like this. Do not try to experiment in areas with closed walls. Do not try to do it in dungeons per se, right? You can still be okay there, but first of all, the walls surrounding you do not allow you to see the sides of the circle, the trial circle, very well. It also restricts your movement. You cannot run as easily as you would be able to run in an open field, practically open field like this. So these kind of scenarios, if you're setting yourself up for success and like, this time around I'm gonna go far. If you are in that kind of mood, then pick a area like this for your trial. Pick an area like this, and practically almost guaranteed that just picking a different area, of course you're less restricted, because your movement is less restricted. So naturally it will work much better for you. And if I have to say it, I'm gonna say it. Needless to say, if you're planning to take an encounter right now, clear the area before you do it. Clear the area before you do it, because you don't want any extra surprises, some other annoying elite rare monster coming to you. Shall we try together? Alright, enough said, let's do this together. We're gonna start with Blistering Cold and go to the edge. And I'm using Lacerate build Duelist over here, the build that I've been working on. I'm gonna inflict as much damage to the enemies as possible in order to, using my teleport as you can see to move, I'm inflicting as much damage as possible without even seeing if I killed them, because I'm inflicting bleed. Let's take a look. Stalking Ruin is what I was talking about. The invulnerable shade stalks you, inflicting ruin. Fail on reaching 7 ruin. At the moment, Blistering Cold 2 versus cooldowns takes 5 times longer to recharge. No way. We're not gonna take that. We're gonna stick to Blistering Cold number 2, because I think that this is still manageable. I could be wrong, but let's see together. Continue sticking to the outward side of the circle. And see how I'm starting to get frozen? That's not good. That's not good. We are not going to handle the level 3, and we're gonna try and teleport, obviously, use the blink as much as dash, as much as possible, to stay as far away as possible. One other thing that I could have mentioned previously, or can mention right now, is that you should always assess the situation on taking rewards or accepting the further trial based on the current situation. Take a look at me. I am on the outer edge. I wasn't surrounded by the monsters. My health is completely healthy. My dash is almost off cooldown. So I'm actually in a pretty good shape to accept another challenge, right? So that's kind of how you need to also guide yourself through this process. Blistering Cold 3? No, thank you. Escalating monster speed? No, thank you. Restless Ground? Unhallowed Ground, that's the one that hinders players and causes slain monsters to resurrect as phantasms. Not interested either, to be honest with you. We are not in a very good tactical shape here. So this could fail or go fine, but we would need to kind of take a punt. Like, this is a good example of where, if you are not super confident, this might be not a terrible example of a situation where you want to exit, you want to take your money and say, and cash in at this casino and say, thank you very much, my friends. For the sake of just having fun and for the sake of the demonstrating of how this all works, I'm gonna take my chances and I'm gonna take this. It's fine. They will increase the attack speed up to 50% of increased speed. I guess out of all things, Blistering Cold 3, Escalating Monster Speed, or Restless Ground, I probably will actually pick Escalating Monster Speed. Let's see how we go. Because I don't think that they will live long enough. However, I might be surprised and this might be quite embarrassing, but fun for us anyway, right? So let's just see. Let's get rid of that group, because that group, if there is a bunch of archers over there, you saw them, right? Again, talking about tactical positioning and assessing your chances to succeed. Not a fan of those. My health started dipping, their speed is increasing, they are not all dead yet, and I don't want this orb. I'm not interested in that orb. Yes, it would be nice for me kind of doing this example run for you. It would be nice for me to push to 5 right now. But I think I made my point. I think I listed everything that I wanted to talk to you about, and I also think that we kind of are out of time. We're running out of usual time that these videos are comfortably fitting into. So I'm gonna take the rewards, my friends. I'm gonna cash in and say thank you very much to the casino owner, pick up whatever has been given to me, be very grateful, because it's generally a good predisposition in life to have, I think. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, if some of these tips were useful, if some of these tactical positioning on the outside of the circle, other kind of things were useful to you, please take a moment to say hello, to say that this was helpful, and it is just always very motivating for me. And I welcome you to join our club if you haven't already. Take a look at the already published, casually friendly, easy build guides, non-elitist build guides. That's what this channel is all about. And more guides are coming, so a like and a subscribe from you would be very much appreciated. I'll talk to you soon. Videos are being released every 2-3 days. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye bye.